We could do it.
It's fun to watch WTCO. We should get that going. Hey, in front of the board next year.
Yeah.
We could tell you why WTCO is important, but actually today we're going to sing it and then we break out.
Yeah, we can get a whole group.
Yeah.
Today is a lovely day in October, and we're down in Galesville, and we're at the old, where are we, Rob?
Nancy,
Grover.
hi guys, how we doing? No stranger to WTCO. So we are at the Old Main Cultural Center right here in Galesville on College Avenue? Is it College Lane, College Street?
Like that, yeah.
Something like that. Right here in Galesville at the Old Main building. And Nancy, I'm sure you could talk for hours about Old Main, but
No,
so Galesville,
not necessarily.
starting in the 1850s, had a university established by Judge George Gale, who not only founded Galesville, but founded the county. And it's a crazy story, but long story short, this little town that had, gosh, at that time, 100 people maybe, he thought it was a good idea we should have a university here too. So he started a university. Long story short, they built a number of buildings, including Old Main. This was the main building here. We're on the second floor right now. Stayed at university till about 1941. In the 40s, the Marianists, which is a Catholic religious order of brothers, the Society of Mary, which still exists today, they purchased the whole property, which is 4 buildings now, or was 4 buildings, to train religious brothers. And they did that up until the 70s. And in the 70s, it was like an ecumenical kind of religious center. And then I think around very late 90s, very late 90s, that ecumenical center stopped. The city took over the ownership of the buildings, and the city leased this building, Old Main, to, gosh, I'm gonna get the title wrong, but the Old Main Preservation Society, something like that. So it's a 501c3. I think they have a 100-year lease, and one of their objectives is to not only preserve the building, but continue to have it be an asset for the larger community. So we're in Old Main, and one of the things they do here, up on the 3rd floor, which if you're a WTCO watcher, I'm certain you've seen many programs or shows up there, is they do live performances of all sorts. And then on this floor, usually on the 2nd, just below, they like to have some sort of art display or some sort of cultural display. You know, they've had woodworkers in here. They've had lots of local artists. But I was asked if I could help curate, because it's a passion of mine, kind of a display of local Galesville items. And here we are. And we're calling it Galesville and Beyond, Our History and Objects. So that's what you're going to see here today. Basically, a lot of these things are my things, but not all of them. I think we had about 6 or 7 folks that brought in items. Some are historical, some are antiques, a lot of them are advertising. Some things are very new. Some of them are local art, which we'll talk about. Your own father has some art in this, local Galesville Decor Prairie artist. So everything has some kind of connection to Galesville, but it's Galesville and beyond because we have Ettrick, Trempealeau, we have some Arcadia things. And I'm a big believer that you can tell a lot about a community by the objects that people preserved. You know, obviously in ancient cultures, right, there wasn't writing. So what can we figure out? We figure it out by objects. Now, even though we have a lot of these objects have words on them and this and that, you can tell a lot about a community at a time by looking at the objects that existed.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What businesses were there? What was important? What wasn't? What churches were there? What controversies were going on? What, you know, how the community connected to the whole larger fabric of the area. So anyway, that's what we're going to kind of look at and talk about. Nancy, I got to be honest with you. I don't know, you may know businesses here that I don't know, but we can kind of just walk through it and look at the things and
Well, let's start with a sign.
You bet.
Where did this come from?
So that actually is an item that I have. I purchased this from a gentleman that found it in Eau Claire. He found it from another collector that got it from someone in Galesville. You're like, okay, we don't care where you got it. What is it? It is the old sign that was on the Galesville depot.
And this is the depot.
That's an artistic rendering of the depot. Do you remember the depot in town, Nancy? No, probably not.
It was probably there, and I was a kid. I didn't pay any attention.
Exactly. So that is from the old depot, and of course, what was more important to any frontier community in the 1850s, 60s, 70s, 80s is when that railroad came to town. And a lot of, if you look at like what cities became important, what cities didn't, the
You had
railroad.
to have a train. And what I remember is the train came into town and then it backed out again.
Yep.
Or was the opposite, I don't know, but it was
No,
the
you're
one
right.
that-
It
one
came into
way.
town, and I wish,
Yeah.
you're right, it came to a depot, and then the train went more, I think it went all the way by where Phone Co. is in town,
Yeah, I
up
think
that
so.
way, because
Yeah.
then the mills could load things
Right.
on, and then it would back out.
Yeah.
But here's a question. Was there ever a spur from, I know Ettrick, those hardy people in Ettrick, built their own rail line that
Yep.
connected to Blair. Was there ever a spur from Galesville to Ettrick?
No,
I don't
they
think
were
so.
planning on it when it was just it was a good idea, but it was bad timing
Yeah.
because World War I started, and then the price of metal and
Yep.
steel went way up, and that's kind of what shot it down. But that was one of the original ideas, was to extend it to Galesville.
Because I feel like if you look at the old lines that existed, if you'd gotten into Ettrick, it really would have connected the whole county, really.
Oh,
Then,
they
but
had
it was
big
that last
ideas.
spot, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, so this is from the old depot. It's in rough shape, but again, it helps tell a little bit of that railroad story, which to any rural community is so important.
So you've got a bunch of things from, well, mainly
over.
some calendars from local businesses.
Yep. So
And this
over.
is one from the old fair. Do we know what year?
Well, yeah, so that is from, so that's Thrill Day apparently, Tin Lizzie races. If I recall, I'm actually gonna take it off because I own it so I can touch it, right?
Yeah.
I did find an article about it. So it is from 1938. And apparently they had done some sort of races. Tin Lizzie races were kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Again, I'm no expert on that. I just kind of searched it. But a lot of guys would race cars, or they would kind of take their cars and suit them up or soup them up rather.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, that's an old advertisement from a race that they
is
did
really
here in
neat
Gale. Yeah,
poster.
I know, right?
Now,
So I had to have it. But.
This next one, Kelman, I've seen that name.
Yeah, so
He was a local
yeah, we'll get that
businessman.
later. Frank Kelman, hardware and heating.
Yeah.
You'll
I think he
see.
also had a pool room.
It's interesting. A lot of families, like, you'd have 3 different generations through 100 years that had different businesses,
Yeah.
and sometimes they'd switch it up, of course.
Yeah,
So.
but that was a name here.
Yeah, Frank Kelman. I think the Kelmans had a jewelry shop too. Actually, I know they do.
think
So
they did.
we'll look at a
Yeah.
clock over there in a bit.
Yeah. And
But-
then, of course, Jensen's Cafe. I think everybody, my age and maybe a little bit younger
Yeah.
remembers Jensen's.
So for folks that know Galesville now, Jensen's Cafe is where the Common Market
Right,
is now,
yeah.
and also another Galesville institution, the Common
Right,
Market, right? What a
yeah.
great place. But.
Yeah, but I remember Jensen's real well. And a lot of people probably remember the late Philip Jensen.
Yes.
And he worked so hard there.
Oh yeah, and his dad started it. Is that right?
I think,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was his parents.
So fun fact: Joyce, who has the
Yeah.
Common Market, owns the building now.
Oh, she does?
She does. She purchased
Okay.
it, and they are renovating the upstairs apartment in this
Right.
beautiful historic building, and it's just gorgeous. So anyway, that's going to get more life to
Who's
it.
the lady with...
Well, I don't.
can't-
It's
I
an
can't
image.
read from here.
Fred Filner, hay, grain,
Oh,
flour,
okay.
feed, and seeds. Ettrick,
Yeah,
Wisconsin.
sure.
So that's one of the Beyond pieces. But
Yeah, there were Filners around.
Yeah.
And there, Ettrick Beach, and there was Filner in town here too. So that's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and there was, I believe, his mill was kind of just south of Ettrick, from what I understand. Where's the Catholic cemetery in Ettrick? It's kind of outside of town. There are gonna be people watching this. They're like, I know exactly where that is.
Oh, I think it's out, like you're going towards North Bend.
Yeah,
on
out,
D.
just a
Yeah.
little bit out
Right,
that way
Right.
is where that mill was,
Oh,
apparently.
okay.
So, yeah.
And the lady with the sheep.
The Lay of the Sheep. Now, there would have been a calendar piece here, but
Uh-huh.
I don't know, that I never had that. But yeah, that's from the Bank of Galesville.
Yeah.
But, just going back to it, Nancy, another piece of history, right? What else, even before railroads, did every town need to be successful? A mill. Every town did, right? So,
that was what number one thing.
Number one thing, yeah.
It really was. And
Yep.
then you've got a bunch of stuff here.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. So we've got some different feed bags. I love
Yeah.
these old feed bags. I actually collect
Yeah.
them and I hang them in my house as kind of art.
Well, they
So,
are.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
they are really
beautiful.
arty.
They're
This is
beautiful.
Supposedly, what, Chief Decorah, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, or some representation,
Right,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
neat story, Nancy. Well, look, actually, so again, the example of telling a story of a community. If you look at this, to remove ink from this bag, well, why would you care about removing ink from this bag, right? If you went to the grocery store now and brought your bags home, why would it matter one
Yeah.
bit? Well, you know, Nancy, why? women would clean these. They'd take all the ink out, and during the Depression, and I think probably during the war, right, when fabric was scarce, they would make dresses
Well, how would you
and
take
clothes.
the ink out of there?
Well, it says soak overnight in
Oh.
cold, rich soap suds,
Okay.
squeezing the suds thoroughly through the goods. Use soap, not soap substitutes.
Right.
The following morning,
Okay.
wash thoroughly in warm soap suds. If any ink
Sure.
remains, boil 10 minutes in soap suds. So people would do that. They would wash these,
Hey,
get all the ink out, and make
That's
clothes.
recycling.
That is, before it was
Terrific.
hip. And just again, some more feed mills from the area.
And lumber, of course.
Yes, the lumber yards.
Davis, that was a big name.
But yep. Yeah.
And yeah, and now this one was Lutz, and I'm
Lutz.
not sure where that was.
Well, I think there was one in Galesville, and then there was one in, well, literally, I guess it says on here, one in Melrose.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly where that was. And keep in mind, some of the feed mills, I think, were purchased by other people through the
Yeah,
years.
they
So it
changed
might have started
names.
as one person's
Yeah.
feed mill and ended up as something else.
Because this one was Rawl, and we all remember,
Oh, yeah.
The
Gibby.
Rawls.
Yep.
and that was down on the lower table. Yep, so
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
remember that one real well.
And then this is kind of fun. This is not
I saw
old,
that.
but
What a neat
my
idea.
grandmother, rest in peace, and actually my Aunt Mary made this for me when I graduated high school.
It's a good idea.
Isn't it
what
fun?
do you do with those ribbons
Well, that's it.
otherwise?
I love the fair. I'm big into the fair. My family is, and
Yeah.
it's like, what do you do with these ribbons? And it's a little frayed in spots, but
I
yeah, they
see.
made me this for when I graduated high school 20
Yeah.
years ago. So anyway,
I think that's a really neat
kind of a
idea.
special artifact. Yeah.
So we have more
more feed sacks
feed
of different
sacks
kinds.
and flour, yeah.
Yep, we got
Ray
peach blossom.
Emmons.
So I think the peach blossom flower, that would have been where Anderson Mill is, right? Weren't they kind of well known?
That was Davis. I think that Davis was
Yeah.
connected with that.
So yeah, all different different mills in the area and
Seed corn.
seed corn. Yep.
Oinus and Emmons. Those are all.
And always
local
looking for others.
names.
I know there's others, many more that I don't have,
Sure.
but yeah. So these
That's
all hang
pretty
up in my
cool.
house, which is kind of fun.
And this is kind of an eclectic.
It's kind of all over, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there is no real rhyme or reason to how we actually organize this. We want it to be something where people could kind of wander in and just look around.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
yeah.
That is
So yeah,
really
we've got
a neat
just
idea.
yeah.
What is this?
That is actually that's Grandma Grover's writing on there. So that is a shoe mold that my great grandfather N.B. Grover. He was one of the first settlers in Trempealeau, and he opened up a store that kind of did everything, including he made shoes.
They made shoes.
He made shoes,
Wow.
and he would use that in his shop back in the 1850s and 60s as a shoe mold.
They got a pretty thin foot back
Well, I know
there.
everything was right. I mean, look at us now, you know. But, well, not you, Nancy.
Well, no,
but Kevin
I'm
and I.
thinking-
Look at us, you know.
I don't think my foot is that. That's really.
It's very
thin.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a different kind of grouping of things. We've got E.C. Finch and Son. They were
Oh,
well drillers.
Yeah. Plumbers and well drillers. You
Old
bet.
hats from the Bank of Galesville.
Yeah.
This is really silly. You're like, why are these here? Only because some mom thought it was important enough to put her kid's name on the back of it. So yeah, I found them somewhere. I don't remember.
Is that what
where.
they call Cupid dolls?
This is Bam Bam
Oh,
and
Pebbles and Bam
Pebbles and Bam
Bam.
Bam. And this is
That
silly.
dates me.
Why anyone saved this? Who knows? But it's a Gale Packing Company can of
Yeah.
peas
That
from back in the day.
employed a lot of people.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That was major employment in the summer.
A lot of history to that too, including German prisoners of war.
Right. during
That
the war.
worked.
Yep.
Now, did they actually work in the factory or just picking the peas? I'm not sure about
Well,
that.
I know they were sent out to work on the farms, and maybe they worked in the pea factory too. I don't
For those
remember
learning the
that
story,
part.
during World War II, there were many prisoner of war camps in the U.S., including Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Trempealeau County Fairgrounds hosted one, and German prisoners of war were brought to Galesville. They worked out in the local fields when there weren't a lot of men to do it. So for a few years, I think, or maybe a couple years, we had German prisoners in Galesville.
At least, because I had people up by where I lived there near Blair that remembered they had German prisoners of war.
Oh, there you go.
And they spoke Norwegian to the Germans, and the Germans spoke German to the Norwegians, and they understood each other.
How interesting.
Yeah.
That is wild. Yeah.
It is. The language was apparently close enough.
Wow. I suppose, yeah, they're the base languages. So yeah, just a lot of random things. An old diploma here from my great uncle, also named Robert Grover, from 1917.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the old school. That
That's the
would have
old
been
school.
really new when this was taken.
Oh, I imagine. Yeah. What year was that building built? Do we think?
Well, I thought it was right around 1917, 1919 in there.
Oh,
So
well, maybe it
that's-
was brand new then. Yeah. I mean, the
think it
trees
was-
look pretty young.
Yep.
So that would make sense. Yeah.
Now, when I went to grade school there, and that was all 8 grades. But
Oh, okay.
years earlier, it had been the bottom first story had been the grade school kids, and then the second story had been the high school.
Oh, wow. To
The
think.
whole high school.
And that was not a big building.
No, and it
Yeah.
was just Galesville. It
Just
wasn't-
Galesville then.
Yep.
Oh, that's a great point, too.
Yeah, it was not
Yeah.
conjoined with Ettrick yet.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I love these signs.
Aren't they cool?
Oh, yeah, Gilbertson Myers. Everybody, my age at least, remembers the Gilbertson Myers store.
I mean, it really was the old traditional department store,
It
small town
was.
department store. And for
Yeah.
anyone that knows now, that is the building that, so Mark and Tracy Stoner, if you love old buildings, you love the charm of downtown Galesville, they deserve an award.
Yeah.
Because they own a lot of the downtown buildings. So Mark and Tracy bought the building, they had the treasure chest there for years, and now they rent it to Cooley Boutique. So
Yeah.
if you know where Cooley Boutique is in downtown Galesville, that is the building
Right.
that Gilbertson Meyer was in forever. And then after that, it was Casberg's for years and
Yeah.
years. And then I think in maybe like 1999, 2000, Mark and Tracy purchased it. So.
And I remember it was, you went down in the basement to get shoes.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, they had one of those things that you put your foot in, it measured it, it had all
Yep.
these, like a slide ruler thing. Nobody knows what a slide ruler is anymore, but that's what they
Yeah,
had.
that's so funny.
And here's the barn dance.
Yes.
Everybody remembers that was WLS coming out of Chicago.
WLS. So we dated that
Oh,
to
big
1942,
I'll
actually.
bet, yeah, because they're selling war bonds.
Yep. And what's funny is, look at this. Look how they spelled Trempealeau.
Well, they were close.
They were close. And I've seen a different sign for the same event, but it's spelt the same way.
Yeah.
So whoever called in the order apparently must have told them the wrong way to do it. But yeah, that was a huge deal from what I understand. I bet there's a few very old timers that probably could remember that dance. Maybe they were kids and they heard about the Lulu Bell,
Right.
Lulu Bell and Scotty
Yep,
coming in.
Yeah.
So
That was a big deal.
Yeah, those things were. Yeah.
And I'm not sure if WLS is still
I don't know.
going or not. But
Maybe it's become something else.
because when I was in high school, that was a rock station.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it
So you wouldn't have heard the
changed.
Hayloft duo
No,
on there
not-
in your
not
time.
then.
Not then. Wow. Something kind of neat here too, Nancy, because it is a lot of older things, but not
Yeah.
everything's old. So these are some pictures. You'll see them
yeah.
along the windows here.
Yes.
And actually, there's a display on the
Yeah.
3rd floor right now too. Reverend Jim Riley, Jim, of course,
right.
very passionate. He passed away a few weeks ago, but he had taken these pictures. I want to say, are they dated? I think last year, maybe. And they're all just scenes of Galesville, different scenes of Galesville all over. So kind of neat. I'm sure they'll continue to be displayed in here.
Those are very nice pictures.
So now these items here
More
were all brought in by
calendars.
Barb Longwell. If you know, if you're
Yeah.
from Galesville, you probably know Barb. She was
Yeah.
a school teacher forever and ever, and just a wonderful lady. So
They had the drugstore.
yes, her husband's family had the drugstore. Her husband was an attorney, city attorney for years, and was an attorney for years and years. And I just saw his daughter Katie, who was in my class, and she's an attorney now too. So kind of neat how that continues on. But yeah, these are all just a lot of different items.
And every
calendars.
year, these businesses would give out a calendar.
A calendar, yeah.
And that's before you could whip out your phone and look
Exactly.
see what day it
You
was.
kind of needed a calendar.
They were important,
Yeah.
And plus, when they were done, a lot of people just, cut off the dates and they kept the pictures.
Yeah. Why go buy art when you just got your calendar every season?
They were great. And here's all the Bank of Galesville and Gilbertson Meyer.
Yep.
And let's see, there's Jensen's again.
Jensen's.
All kinds of different stuff.
Yeah.
Gamble's, yeah.
Now, where is Gamble's?
Oh, Gamble's would have been, I think there's a vet office there.
Oh, okay, right next to the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And Hunter Hardware, that was a cousin of mine, and that was on the square. So
Really?
I remember that.
There you go.
I mean, it wasn't open when I was a kid, but
Yeah.
I do remember them doing that.
Galesville Mill Company here.
This is
Farm
neat.
State. Isn't that? I know. So
You
that's
could write your
right. Your note right on
grocery
it.
list on it.
Yeah, that's called chalkware. It's actually
Yeah.
pretty collectible now, but
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
And that was from the Bank of Galesville. And they were giving this away free. That's a pretty good
Now,
deal.
folks watching this, we've got some wasps in the building here,
Oh,
so
well.
you know we're gonna try to survive. But
Just ignore them. You'll
there
be
you
all
go.
right.
There you go. But Kevin, you may
Believe
want to get a
me.
shot of this. A giant wasp
Oh my
made a
gosh.
huge nest outside,
Yeah, he did.
and they decided to keep it because you can
Yep.
see the inside of it. Isn't that ridiculous?
Yep, that's
I
a
mean, it's
paper
cool.
wasp.
Yep. There you go.
That's a lot of work.
That's how they got in.
I wonder. I don't know, but
They get in pretty easily.
yes.
Well, that's,
Isn't that
and
cool?
more pictures that.
More pictures. I think
the
that
gym
is that the Jehovah Witness Church, I believe, the Emmanuel one, and that's the Bethel Lutheran, both here in Galesville. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you know the story on
Well,
the eagle?
here's the deal. I bought that at the same place that I bought a couple things from Lloyd Scarseth. Or not from, excuse me, that were Lloyd Scarseth. So I wondered if it's not signed, and he usually signed his things.
Yeah.
So if it's not a Lloyd Scarseth, I imagine it's something that was displayed here locally, maybe in someone's house or something like that.
It's on
So-
cloth, huh?
It's on cloth, yeah. So I don't know. I just thought it was kind of neat.
It is. I've never seen anything like
No,
that.
exactly. So.
And now you've got more feed
More
sacks.
feed sacks and also,
these little, what, nail aprons, aren't
Yep,
they?
exactly.
Yep.
Nail aprons from local businesses, Clarence Brown.
Clarence Brown and Son, you
Yes.
bet. And he was a big, as I recall, he really did a lot of things for the community.
Lots.
Yep,
There's
especially
still
the fair.
The fair, I think
Yes.
he helped in some major way for the Farm
Yes.
Progress Building, which has just been redone now. But yeah.
Yeah, that
so
was a big deal. He
It was. Yeah.
And more brawl and Schumann's, of course. the
Schumann's,
that
yep.
Still have the seed corn.
The seed corn business. Yeah.
And a bishop in Arcadia.
That's Arcadia. Yep.
Yeah.
That's where part of the beyond of the show. You know.
Yeah, That's neat. I've
Yeah.
never seen one. And this was pretty heavy cloth.
Oh yeah, it was.
could've
Well, they
made
made
a-
things so well, you know.
You could have made a pretty good pair of pants.
Well,
out
you
of
sure
it.
could. Exactly.
Well, this is Arcadia.
In that,
right?
yep.
Arcadia,
Yep, Arcadia Friars. So if you had broiler hens around here
Yeah.
back for a long time, you probably, well, back then it was Arcadia Friars or
Right.
AG Co-op. So yeah, that I think represents a lot of folks that were chicken farmers in the area
Oh,
here.
that's a big.
And then some more pictures over
Yeah.
here. Spots people will know. We've got the Garden of Eden and
Yep. Very popular place.
yes, exactly.
Very popular.
Yeah.
And boy, you got a lot of stuff on these tables too.
Yeah, lots of
What is that? Like a big scrapbook?
this is a huge old scrapbook of just random Gales, old and new, but just old flyers from different events and that sort of thing. So yeah.
People used to make scrapbooks.
Oh, it was important. Yeah,
that
it was
a
important.
big-
So
And what are these?
so those
that's neat.
that's a bank for the Bank of
Oh.
Galesville.
Look at that.
Aren't those fun?
They
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
A couple of cars and a truck.
Yep.
That is really pretty nifty.
Yeah, yeah, and these are all just more
Wow.
artifacts from different places. So the hammer and Engen, little
yeah.
wallet from them.
Hammer
you know,
and Enghagen.
Enghagen,
Yeah.
Enghagen.
Right, it was Enghagen.
Lutz Feed Mill, but it's a good representation of like things they used to give you.
Yep.
So
And here they're selling the Crystal Valley Mill.
yeah, the Crystal Valley Mill.
Fools.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin's getting chased by bees. They won't get you, Kevin. I swear. Yeah, Crystal Valley Mill. I have asked some people, and there's not a lot known about the mill there.
No.
I think it was on Willis Road.
Oh, back in there.
That's
sure.
how I understand it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
Probably. That's,
yeah.
And there's more from the Kelmans. Yeah,
Yep.
they were a pretty big name.
They were. Well, here is, I think, something that's
Oh,
super
look at
cool.
that. Yeah, they have
Yes,
some
that's an
jewelry.
old clock. So
Yeah.
John Kelman and Son, Jewelers and Watchmakers, Galesville, Wisconsin. And I actually
That's beautiful.
acquired this, gosh, just a couple months ago. But yeah, it needs a cleaning and this and that. And I wanted to get it operating again.
Yeah.
But,
Well, you should be able to.
yeah, I think the guts look pretty darn good. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then Arctic Springs, my grandpa was a cream hauler.
Oh, okay.
And I just remember that, he'd come down to the Arctic Springs.
Yep.
And unload those cans, and that was on the outside, and they had like a conveyor belt.
Sure.
And those cans would kind of
Oh, I imagine.
walk along like that
Yep.
into the building. And then when you went into the building, it had the smell, and now I realize what it was. It was almost a sour milk smell.
Oh, okay.
It had its own peculiar smell.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that, the industry of an area definitely can give it a smell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this is Amo Frankar, and yeah.
Does that name ring a bell to you?
I think, yeah, he was a druggist, as I
Oh,
recall.
okay.
I mean, it was before my time, but I
Yeah.
had seen that
Yep.
advertised.
Yeah.
And Ben Rood Estate, okay.
Yep. Old Fair book from 1908.
Wow.
Yeah, which is kind of fun.
And
Old-
what time of year were they having it then? September.
September. So
Right.
and then October 1st and 2nd. So right
Yep.
around now.
Yeah, that's when they used to have the fairs.
And then this is a phone exchange, for the phone exchange, basically phone numbers. I forget what year it's for, but it's very, very early. So all the numbers
Oh, yeah, there's
are.
the Blair Exchange.
Yeah.
There's Arcadia, all 2 pages.
Oh, I know, right? Yep. But again, what a sign of the times when,
Yep.
when the phone came in. So
And there is Lloyd Scarsitz.
Lloyd Scarseth. So
Yep.
Lloyd, again, for folks that don't know, pretty darn well known, probably one of our most well known folk artists from
Yes.
the area, because he did get some national attention in his time too.
He lived right up the Decorah Prairie from me.
Ah.
I think it was he and his brother, and they were bachelor farmers.
Yep.
But I think they were also musicians, that they played some music, dance music and stuff
Yeah.
as well. But yeah, he did really good portrayals of what it was like on the farm.
He did.
Then.
Very much a
Yeah.
folk artist,
Very
but
much.
yeah.
Because he never had any training or anything.
Sure. Then Hunter Hardware, again,
Yep.
your relative here.
Yeah, he was some kind of a cousin.
Yeah. Now that is from my family's farm. We were apple farmers for a
Oh,
long
okay.
time, and this was one of the stencils you would put over. So Wisconsin standard apples, and then
Can I
all the
pick it
writing.
up
Please.
just a
Oh yeah,
little
it's
bit?
not. Yep, you can.
So that Kevin can get a good
Yeah.
shot of that. It's a stencil. Huh.
Yeah. So then you'd do that over your
Sure.
barrel, and then I think right here is what you'd write, like the size or how many inches,
Right,
all that
right.
stuff. So. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Well, I'll mention too, Nancy. So up here, there's a little display. Those are 2 art pieces by Brother Mel Meyer.
Right, and people remember Brother
So yeah,
Mel.
there's people in Galesville that will remember Brother Mel, but for people that have never heard of him, he was a Marianist, so a member of that religious order that was here. But he became a very prominent artist. He's estimated to have made over 10,000 pieces of art. His religious order, the order basically, everyone would take on a role or a job of some kind, and he was the first brother they ever said, your job is to make art, because he was so passionate about it. So then he traveled the world, ended up down in is it St. Louis?
Yeah, I think it was by St. Louis, wasn't
And
it?
he had his own studio there,
Yeah.
but he would do public art. He would do, actually, if you go to Nashville, Tennessee, there's a lot of public art from Brother Mel. A lot of locals still have his art. And there's a whole book, actually. So if you're interested in learning more about Brother Mel, you can get a book probably from your local library. You can find it online. And then just as an homage to that too, that statue there, that is Father Chaminade, who was the French priest who right after the French Revolution started the Marianists.
Oh,
so it
okay.
kind of weaves the whole web of
Yep.
Father Chaminade started the Marianists in the early 19th century. In the mid 20th century, they operated partially out of this building and led to people like Brother Mel, who became an incredible artist and definitely has a Galesville connection. So.
And what are all these now?
Well, these are a lot of this is Gale College stuff. So the Gale pennant, which
was that like a yearbook?
kind of, I think it was sort of like what. So that's volume 1. That volume 1, number 1. So this is the very first one, and I think they kind of just told what was going on in the school, maybe, and different social life at Gale. So things like that. Yeah.
That's great stuff.
It is cool. Yeah.
And let's see, it started out, I know for a while it was a Lutheran college.
Yeah, so it started out, I think,
Yeah.
it wasn't, was it not denominational
don't-
at the beginning? And then it had been it went through a Methodist phase, it went through a Lutheran phase, and then it went through a Catholic phase when
Right.
it was no longer a college per
Yeah.
se. And also keep in mind, when we say college, that word was used a little loosely. So when this place was established, it wasn't like the four-year universities you think of now.
No.
So you could finish 8th grade and come here and do school. You know, the idea that like you would go through high school. A lot of people didn't do high school.
No.
High school is really a 20th century phenomenon for a
yeah.
lot of people
Yeah, it was.
anyway. A lot of folks just
Yep.
didn't do it. So
Very
anyway,
much.
yeah.
And more
but-
calendars.
More calendars. You can't have enough calendars. That is the old school in Trempealeau.
Oh, the
yeah.
old Healy High School.
Yeah, that's right.
Because,
That's actually before Healy.
it was. Oh,
Yeah, so that
okay.
is the old school, and then it's a little dusty, I think. But then they built Healy after that, so that's the original school, I believe.
And there are so many people that have no idea that Trempealeau had its own school
You bet.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm always confused about. If you lived in Ettrick in the 1940s, before it became part of Galesville, where did you go to high school if you wanted to? Or you could choose. Could you go to
Right.
Blair? Would you go to Galesville?
Yeah.
It didn't have an assigned high school in Ettrick?
No,
Okay.
I think that they had a high school there for a while.
Okay.
And then in the 50s, they, consolidated, if you want
Yep.
to call it that, with Galesville. But Ettrick had its own school, and I think they did have a high school there, but not for too long.
Not for too long.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then just a lot more random things gifts you would give. So this is from Mike's Shell Station, which is now where Jake's Moving and Storage is, which is kind of fun. Just different ashtrays. Ronnie's Bar and Supper Club in Ettrick. And it's funny now, Ron Truax, his grandson, Tyler Truax, and his brothers own Mike's Bar here in Galesville.
Oh,
so,
that's right,
we, we think, you see some of these names, like, oh, generations people did something. Well, of course that's still happening. So he's the third generation kind of in that sort of business.
Here's
so.
something I bet a lot of younger people have no idea what it is.
Oh, I know what it is, Nancy, but what is it?
Well, you put your stick matches in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd have it next to your oven or
next to your
fireplace.
stove. Yeah. You didn't have any little clickers or anything. You would stick matches. And this is Maxwell Davis again, who was a big name in town. Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty cool. He gave away some nice stuff there.
Oh, I know, right?
That was useful.
It was useful.
Yeah.
You actually would use it. And this is actually a pretty darn old thing. This is from the Maxwell Davis Lumber Company. They'd give you a tool. Isn't that cool?
Like a little crowbar.
Yeah. Think of
cool.
the junk you get now from a business, you know?
Well, not much.
Not much.
And Hilt's Garage gave you a nice,
Can opener, right?
That was a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's the threshing.
Yep.
Louis Twesme, and he was promoting the Minneapolis threshing
Farm
machine.
machinery,
Yep.
Appleton corn huskers, De Laval cream separators, milkers. Yeah, Galesville, Wisconsin. Wow. So, yeah.
And look at the glassware. Isn't that beautiful?
Isn't that fun? So that's from the Centerville Cooperative, the big milk glass.
That was really
But then you've got,
nice.
it's so funny. Souvenir of Galesville. I always wonder, where would you have purchased these souvenirs of Galesville back in the day? Probably the local department store? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's beautiful.
Isn't that cool?
It is.
Yeah.
And the Palace livery. Well, that was where, livery.
Livery, yeah.
Sale and feed stable. And that was, what was his name? Knutson.
Knutson.
In Galesville.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what's so interesting? Look at the back of that. So it tells you the distances to the different places. Because what you would do is you could come in by train, and then you could be transported to these different places.
Yeah.
So but look, some of the, Trempealeau, La Crosse, Frenchville, Ettrick, Beaver Creek. So where were they saying Beaver Creek was?
Oh, I think Beaver Creek. I don't know.
Decorah Prairie, 4 miles.
Yeah.
You could Glasgow, 10 miles. So
Yeah.
anyway.
I've never seen one like that before. That is really neat.
Kind of cool.
And this must be somebody's scrapbook again.
Their book from
The
their
girl
senior year.
graduate, her own book.
Yeah.
And who was this girl, do we know?
It was, yes, Margaret Suddy, Etta Margaret Suddy.
Sure.
So Dave Suddy, who's in the Lions Club with me, he lent this out to be displayed. So yeah.
That is really nice.
Isn't it cool, the way people scrapbook? Now we Facebook, I guess. That's our scrapbook,
Yeah,
huh?
I was just thinking this morning, looking at all these pictures on my phone, what am I going to do with all
Well, yeah, exactly. They're just going to live on your phone. You know?
What happened? Yeah.
Well, Nancy, you're a horse person. You'll appreciate this.
Oh, yeah, when they used to have
This
the
is a
trotting
trophy.
races.
Yes,
at the
1956.
fair.
You maybe watched that
I
race.
maybe did. I used to
56? Would you have been able to have watched the race there?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I am that old.
Yeah, there you
But
go.
it was, I used to love those trotting races, and that was in the fair. And people at the fairgrounds, you can still see where the track was because it's kind of sunk
There's
in
that
there.
permanent indent in the ground, I feel
what
like.
a neat one.
Yeah, so that's up on my mantle.
That is really special.
It is cool. But kind of interesting. So here is a postcard. It's of the fairgrounds, of course. And we all lament the grandstand. But this is the building we know now is the main hall / the homemakers building.
Right.
But you've heard about that. They're looking at maybe tearing it down.
I know, and that's the oldest building
It's
down
really
there.
the only old historic building left. Now I'm not judging the decision, but it's sad to lose those old buildings, isn't
I would hate
it?
to see that one go.
Oh, I know. But at the same time, do you and I have $1 million to give to it?
I know. That's
right?
it.
And it's not really the current fair board's problem. Probably, again, we're going into the weeds here, but the fair board of 25 years ago should have probably done something to save it. But anyway, there you go.
And this is...
That's a sign that would have gone up somewhere in town. So it's your fair, so be there. Galesville, September 4th through 7th. So probably up in a merchant's window or something like that.
That's a good way to promote things back then. Why not? And here's a rain gauge.
Gibson Seeds.
Gibson Seed. Huh.
Now, I think this is a bit of a treasure, Nancy. This is
another,
the
like a
old stencil for the High Cliff Wagon Company that was here in town. You would plop that on the back of the wagon. They would paint over it. It would just like now you see the make of the car or the the maker of the car. They would have plopped that up on your wagon.
Where was that? Do you have any idea?
Where it was down, I want to say kind of down by where Anderson Feeds was, down that way.
Well,
But
that makes sense.
I think so.
Another scrapbook.
Yeah, so this, actually my good friend Garrick Mickey, his grandma or great-grandmother made this scrapbook, and he gave it to me some years ago, but it's just full of Galesville World War II stories.
That's what I was going to say. Isn't that Jimmy Cram?
It is, the Jimmy Cram story. Have you ever told that story on WTCO? That'd be a fun thing to do a little story on.
Yeah, his daughter was a very good friend of mine.
Oh, wonderful.
And here's a war bride, British bride.
Yeah.
This is great. That would be really interesting.
You can borrow this sometime, but look through
look
it.
at that.
Kind of funny. Lieutenant Arnold R. Wiley reports for duty. So that would be the Arnold house. That'd be like his grandson.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
That is nifty.
Yeah. You'll see a lot of stuff here from Gibby Rawl. So Gibby Rawl, Nancy, maybe you can tell the story better than I can, but he was a businessman.
Yeah.
Had the feed mill, had other things. Also was a really talented artist.
Yeah, he did cartoon type stuff.
Exactly. So we've got lots of his different art, art. And a lot of it's funny, a lot of it is kind of risque, actually, which is fun if you read it. So a lot of it's really, really neat. His daughter, Lynn, actually gave me quite a few of these items. And
he lived to be quite old.
100 and something.
Yeah.
Well, here, we've got it right. 1914 to 2018. So he lived to be 103. That be right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Look at that.
And then this is a picture that he did of himself. So that's a self-portrait, apparently. He was a musician.
Drums.
I know, right? He was a musician as well. So,
interesting guy.
Yeah, very much so.
So we have...
And these are some more things from Lynn Rawl. Some of her dad's art, Gibby Rawl's art, and then a couple things from the feed mill as well.
Oh, and here is the old mill, isn't it?
Oh, I wonder, yeah. Or a mill, anyway.
A mill.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one, but like you say, that was so important. That was how you established a community when you got a mill.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And then you could ship it and bring in money into the community. So.
Yep, and that's where Lake Marinuka came from.
There
when
you go.
They dammed it up.
People
so
forget that. There was no Lake Marinuka.
Right,
There, I think there were, if I recall reading, there were homes. There were some early homes built in the area that would later get flooded by Lake
I would
Marinuka. So then
imagine.
they removed them, of course. But
I would imagine that they did.
So a
And
lot of
then
cool items.
Here's the Galesville Public School Band.
Yep, and then these are all everyone named right here, actually.
Okay,
So,
and this was 1927.
yeah.
Well, look at that. That was a pretty good sized band.
Oh, don't you think? Yeah, it's really cool.
And then-
Now, do you remember this stage at the high school being there? Was there a stage?
Oh, yeah, it was.
Oh, wait a minute, that wouldn't have, oh yeah, that would have been 27, that would have been the building, yeah.
Yes, it was down, it was like there was the gym.
Yep.
And then they had that raised platform that was the stage at one end.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Pretty cool. Random sign, Cozy Corner.
Sure.
Anyone knows where Gale Lanes was? That
Yep.
that was in the basement there. So a lot of different, I think, businesses in that bottom floor of the
Yeah.
bowling alley over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then a couple more Galesville institution businesses. So
And here is a curling
yes,
stone, except it's not a stone, it's made out of wood.
made out of wood. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I just
Nancy?
remember that they said that they made it out of elm, is what I had heard.
Oh.
I don't know. And when my ancestors came from Scotland, that was what they wanted to do here, was
Yeah.
curl.
There you go.
And
yeah,
they weren't always granite. They had to use whatever they
Exactly.
could find. Yeah.
That one, for years and years, was on the mantle at the old Galesville Curling Club
Yeah.
that existed, and that had been found in one of the cricks right around here. So probably was left there. I was reading, though, too, that, of course, you wouldn't think with a metal handle, but sometimes they would leave the wooden stones actually in the shallow water because it would help like cure them and preserve
sure.
them.
Well, they would,
So
yeah.
but I don't know. But anyway, that one was found and was in the curling rink
That is really
ever and
neat.
ever. Yeah.
And here we have the tam, the hat that they wore.
Now, what's it called?
A tam o'shanter.
tam,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And the brooms, which is totally different now. We were just talking about that nowadays they use like a push broom.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this was like a whack.
Can you imagine? Yeah.
And sometimes you could get them. They had a strip of leather in them.
Oh.
So when they were,
Pop, 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 pop,
it was
yeah.
loud.
Oh,
My
yeah.
goodness, it was loud.
Well, when I was a
You
little
know,
kid, I can remember some old timers occasionally would still break one out, you know. But man, what a different technique to actually use that, you
Yeah,
know.
well,
But, yeah.
and originally they were curling outside,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
on
and you
natural
were,
ice.
if you think of it, you were moving real debris back then.
Yes,
you
you
know.
really were.
And I'll just
Pretty
highlight this. This
interesting.
is a poster that when I was working for the county, we had made of the county and different businesses and things. So kind of fun.
Yeah.
And those are poker chips from the old Galesville Curling Club. They had their own poker chips.
Oh yeah, they used to
Yes.
sit in that back room and,
Oh, you
and
bet.
play cards.
Back
and
when you could
name
smoke
it.
indoors and all
Yep.
that. Yep, exactly.
What went on in the old days? Well, this is an old plate, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's actually, if you look at the back of that, well, maybe it's not on there. If you look here, you can see, this is the story. It's called The Cliff. So that's a kind of a well-known picture of a little steam
Yeah, they used
boat.
to have a little, like an excursion
Yeah.
boat.
So then, and be careful, we got a B right over there. But for the bicentennial, the Bank of Galesville had these plates made of that scene. So
That
anyway.
is nifty.
Isn't that fun? Yeah.
I don't know how long they did that, but
Yeah.
I remember seeing pictures of
Yep.
that.
Pretty
And,
cool.
Here's some more pictures. Well, this must have been plays, school plays.
Oh,
maybe?
that's the centennial.
Oh, that's the
excuse me,
centennial.
150th. That's the 150th.
That was, yeah.
Or is it the 100th?
That was 100th.
100th back in the 50s.
1954, I think.
Yeah.
it was.
So, someone said the names, but it was like the different societies, and they're dressed up
Yeah.
in.
Well, the men grew beards,
Yeah.
and the women got dressed up in these old clothes. I mean, I was a really little kid, but I do remember a little slice of a memory of being in the kiddie parade.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and I was dressed up in this Scottish outfit,
Yeah.
pushing my grandma's old doll buggy. I remember that.
Well, I just met with a lady. She's 98 now, and she's in one of these pictures. So
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Yeah,
Oh my
kind of
goodness.
fun.
And then this was Lake Marinuka.
Yep, Lake Marinuka. Yeah, a kind of a big picture of it.
Yeah, the boat landing. I'm not sure where was that.
Well, that one is more by, someone just told me. That's not where you would see the landing today.
No.
It's a different part of the lake.
Okay.
I don't want to say wrong, but yeah, it's a landing on the lake there.
I wonder if that wasn't more on the east side there,
Maybe.
where they have apartments down there now.
Yeah, it could
and
be.
Houses.
Yeah.
That could be. And this is what shocked me. This is not a
Yes,
painting.
Nancy, let's explain. What's this next thing of pictures
These are
here?
paintings that my dad, Sam Guthrie, did.
Sam Guthrie.
Yes,
Yeah.
he liked to paint, and when he retired, he had more time to do it.
Yep.
But he did some of Decorah Prairie and the neighbors, and that one I think he did in watercolor. Now that one is that was a scene from out east, because he was from Connecticut.
Oh, we were wondering, did he just
Yeah.
find photos, or that's probably a scene that meant something to
I
him?
think so,
Yeah.
and this is Ireland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, it looks that actually.
Yeah, my dad was like 100% Irish.
Oh.
And he and my mother visited Ireland, and that's
And
what
he
the
fell in love with a
Irish house
Scottish
is.
woman, huh? My
Yeah.
gosh, how was
This
that
is-
at home?
Well, see,
No, I'm
this
just
was
kidding.
World War II.
Yeah, yeah.
They were both in the Army Air Force.
That's right,
and
I've
that's
seen.
how they met, yeah.
Your mother has such an interesting story.
Yep, so that
Now,
so-
this is the
yeah.
prairie, right?
Yes.
The Decorah Prairie?
Yep, there's the mound and the peak.
Yeah.
And the house up there, that's where my son lives now. And we figured out that he is the 7th generation of our family to live on Decorah Prairie.
Wow, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's a
Wow.
nice place to live.
Oh my gosh, they should name it after you, you know?
Yeah, name it after.
This picture I think is particularly cool. So explain the scene here.
Well, he's looking out the front door. That was my uncle Lucian Hunter's farm. I mean, it was always called Toot. I have
Toot.
no idea
I love it.
why. And that was Mark Hunter. And across the road were the Dawkins, Jack and Betty, and Jack's mother, May, lived in the smaller house. And that was just right across, he's...
And your daughter-in-law said, I mean, this is the scene out the window.
It is.
When she's like doing
Yep.
dishes and she looks out.
Yep, that's what
what
she
you see.
sees.
Isn't that kind of cool?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he even got the garden down here too.
Wow.
And right here, this was the Harlan and Vernil Hunter farm,
that's
and
right.
Vernil just passed away. I think she was 102.
102.
Yep, so
Yeah.
that was our old neighbor. So
Didn't they donate some land to the Conservancy
They
to be
did.
preserved? A whole bunch,
yes,
right?
they did.
Yeah.
The-
There you go.
I came in the door here, and here's my dad's
There's your
picture.
dad's stuff. Well, I guess I just figured you knew your daughter-in-law brought them, but yeah.
She doesn't call and ask me how to do everything.
I guess no. I guess not. You know. Oh, and back over here. I don't think we mentioned it, but the art up here.
Oh, no, you're right.
Lloyd Scarseth.
I love this picture.
Yeah. So anyone that we
Isn't that nice?
isn't it cool? We saw a couple of his calendars.
Yep.
But my phone's ringing. Hold on. We don't need to answer that.
That's okay.
It's spam. Of course it is. Here we're looking at history, and I'm getting spam. But yeah, this is old Lloyd Scarseth. These two pieces are ones that I have. And that one, actually, the large one, was just donated by the Bank of Galesville to Old Main to display and have and preserve. So.
And I remember he did a lot of painting on mirrors and glassware.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lot
That yeah.
He did a lot of stuff like that.
What's cool about this one, it is a named horse of his. He has it right up on the back. He
Yeah.
used the real horse hair from the horse to make it, so it's leather, it's wood, it's paint, real glass eyes, and it represents a real horse that was on his farm, apparently.
I think he really liked their draft horses. He did a lot of stuff,
Yep.
His pictures had a lot to do with the horses.
Yeah.
I see, when I was growing up there, he was getting quite elderly.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but
Sure.
he was quite the artist.
Oh, wonderful. Again, very much a folk artist, but he did get some acclaim. He was featured
Yes.
in, was it Life or Time magazine?
I think so, yeah.
For some of his work.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
That's-
pretty cool. So yeah, so this is the room here. I mean, there's way too many things to go through everything individually, but
Yeah.
like a lot of neat items. And, everyone was able to come in and see them during the main event, which is a big fundraiser for Old Main. And then whenever they host an event, from, I guess now when you're seeing this until the end of October, you can come in here and check it out.
And,
So.
are there hours, or how do
Well,
you
so
access
if you
it?
go to, from my understanding, go onto the Old Main Facebook page, or you can go
Okay.
onto the Old Main website, and you'll see a calendar of events.
Okay.
And whenever they have an event going on, you can check it out. And you know what? If you want to come see it on a different day, reach out to myself
Yeah.
or reach out to us, send a message, and maybe we can get you in here to look around. So.
I just think this is wonderful. I'll bet that people that pass through this really enjoy
Oh
it.
yeah. Well, you can see there's so many different things,
Yeah.
and whether you're 35 or 95, there's
Yeah.
probably something in here that connects you with something else.
It'll
So.
jog your memory
Exactly,
one way or another. This
exactly.
is great. I know this was a lot of work.
It
but-
was a lot. I mean, the logistics is the big piece, is like hauling it all,
Yeah.
and getting it kind of displayed. And we could, and when I say we, myself, I could have curated it better into subjects and this and that. But we're like, you know what? Let's just get it spread out so people can enjoy it.
Yeah,
So,
this is
Yeah.
fun. I mean, it's just I'm still impressed. I remember how stores gave these things away. Usually,
that's a cheese cutter, right?
Yeah, but a
Yeah.
very nice one.
Barentine oil,
Yeah,
right here in
yep,
Galesville.
you bet, Howard Barrington. Yeah. And the funny thing too about the ashtray, remember everybody used to smoke.
Oh
there
yeah, everyone.
Oh,
yeah.
gosh.
It was good for you, right? Good for the
Well,
lungs. No,
in-
I mean it wasn't, but some
No.
people would say that.
In World War I, they encouraged the soldiers to smoke and handed out
sure.
cigarettes.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
they thought that was good for them because it gave them a little pep and
Yeah.
kind of muted their appetite.
Oh sure,
So-
sure.
Yeah,
Wild
thanks
what
a
we
lot.
thought. Yep.
Well, this is really special, Rob. And the Facebook page is what? Just Old Main?
Old Main. Yep. Search
Okay.
Old Main Cultural Center. It should pop up. Google Old Main or whatever search engine
Yeah.
you use, and
Yeah.
you'll find it there too. So.
So let's just cut across the hall because you were showing me something
You
else
bet,
over here
yeah.
that is also pretty nifty, and I think a lot of people will really
You
get
betcha.
excited about this.
So as you
because-
saw, and Kevin might have got the sign on, but this is the history and genealogy room here of Old Main. Now I wish Keith Cook was here right now because him and a wonderful group of volunteers really run this. But it's not just a place for performances on the third floor or displays, but it is an active place where you can do research on your family, on any history you want to
Yeah.
know of the area. So they are constantly cataloging different items. So they have a database, actually also a plug for oldmain.com, Google Old Main. They actually have a searchable library you can go on, and you can find objects, you can find articles, that sort of thing.
That's a lot of work to do that.
Tons.
Yes.
From my understanding, I'm not going to say it right, but it's Keith and then two folks that help him. So they take a picture of something or scan it, they put it in the database, it gets recorded on a piece of paper, that sort of thing. So it takes multiple hands, but they have put thousands of items onto the website that you can look and search, but they have thousands more to go. So it is a labor of love, but you can tell. I mean, look, just right here, it shows some of the collections that they
I'm looking
have.
at that. That's amazing.
It is, and again, it's accessible to the public. You just have to set up an appointment to come in.
Oh my
He one of
gosh.
the many from the Glasgow community.
Glasgow had their own band.
Apparently,
and
I mean, they have
and
little
they had
Glasgow to have their own
uniforms.
band, and they had their
That's so
own
neat.
very hot uniforms. It looks like.
Can you imagine that?
No, I can't.
That is really something. And then I'm looking at the sign down here for Dr. Rhodey. Elmer Rhodey.
Yeah, where was that clinic?
That would be, did you remember where the Longwells,
Oh, you bet. Karate studio now.
right, and
Yep.
it would have been to the east of it, like the next building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was their
Interesting.
clinic, he and Dr. Moon.
Ah, sure.
And, Dr. Moon. Yeah, it said Dr. Moon. I just remember him so well.
Oh,
Because he
interesting.
practiced for a long, long time.
Yeah, his son Eric Moan is still, he's a financial planner now, but
Oh,
here
he
in
is.
town. So
Yeah.
I believe. Oh, I hope I have that right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, this was the consummate small town
Oh,
doctor that
needed
came
that.
to your house.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yes, and a lot of people, women had their babies delivered at this clinic.
Wow.
It was just a
Different
big
time.
deal.
This is
What is this now?
What
This
is that?
Another.
military cadet band. So
Oh
when
my
Johnny Clem was
goodness.
here, this
Yeah.
cap was worn by a member of the band. So it's from the 1880s.
This is really thick, like a wool or something.
Oh my gosh,
isn't
nothing.
it?
Yeah, breathable
All
cloth was
lined.
not a thing, was it? Mary, who was Johnny Clem for those watching that might be interested?
They used to call him the drummer boy of Chickamauga.
I think you're right.
Yeah, he was just a young kid. He was like 10 years old or something.
Yep.
And he was a drummer boy for the Union. And I think it was during the Battle of Shiloh, he dropped his drum and got a rifle off the ground and was fighting. He was like 10 years old.
Yeah.
That was how he made his mark. But he was here for a while.
He taught here, I think,
Yeah,
after the war.
right.
Well, later, I mean, not right after the
Later,
war,
yeah,
but he
right.
came and taught military science,
Yeah,
which
I think for a
was a
short
thing
time.
then. Yeah,
Mhm.
so
that was a big deal.
Big deal.
Because he had a name.
I want to show you another painting here too. Just we mentioned
Oh,
Brother Melmeyer.
yes.
Of course, he was here and he had painted this picture of Gale College / Marynook. So that's what they
Yep.
called it then, Marynook. And this was at the nursing home at Marynook Manor for years and years. And then they donated it back to Old Main a number of years ago.
That's where it
ought-
belongs.
yes, it
doesn't
makes sense.
Yep.
And then the Sesquicentennial, we all remember that,
Yep.
2004.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
That was a while. Isn't it crazy? We'll
But
have.
there's one
yeah.
more picture we need to look at.
Oh,
That-
you bet.
Here is Johnny Clem.
Oh, there's a guy. Yes, there he is.
That was the little drummer boy, not Chickamauga, of Shiloh, I think it was. Oh well.
And
Wrong babble, but
There you go.
I'll get it straight here.
but here you can come in too, and this area is available to do research.
Oh,
so.
I think this, they said that the number 1 hobby in the United States now is genealogy.
Isn't that interesting?
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And I'm always amazed, sometimes when Mary Anderson and I do our television program for WTCO,
That's right.
we wind up in some old cemeteries, and I almost always have someone contact me and say, "Oh, we saw our great Aunt Clara's tombstone, and now we're coming to Trempealeau County, and we're going to visit that, and we're going to drive around and see where they live."
Oh, I love it. That's cool.
Yeah, and that brings money into the
Oh,
county.
you bet. History is actually history tourism. It's a real thing.
It
You know?
is.
Yeah.
People just love
Yeah.
it, and it's a real easy on the environment.
It is low
hobby.
impact. The things
Yeah.
are already here.
Right,
You know.
right.
but-
Very low impact.
Yeah.
And this picture there.
Yeah. So
that
this is the
a
Galesville
really
Square. Very
one of the
old.
square, isn't
Yes.
it?
Before there was a square there, or well, there was always a square. Excuse me, but before
Yeah.
there was a.
No
Well, the band
trees.
is it a band shell or a pavilion?
No,
People get worked
the
up.
both, yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't.
No.
Whatever.
Nancy, you don't get worked up about it?
No,
oh, there you go.
no.
Yep.
But this has got to be like the 1870s or so,
Oh, I
the way they're
bet.
dressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Rob.
Oh,
for
Nancy
taking
and
the
Kevin.
time.
Oh, we love it. I love WTCO. Where else are you going to find shows like this, Nancy?
You're not.
Nowhere.
No.
What a travesty if there wasn't a place where you could tune in and watch locally made
Right.
shows like this.
Yeah,
So
it
let's
is.
let's all keep supporting it, right?
Yeah, I'm sure your appreciation for
Because
WTCO.
it's fun to watch.
Yes,
WTCO.
Yeah.
That's right. We're gonna put it together. Thank you guys.
You bet.